everybody, and welcome back to another quick review Thursday. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and as well, not always, but most of the time, got my co-host with the mostest or the moostest, Paul A Presenza here. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. What's moo with you?
We're here to talk about Kickboxer 2, which I grew up loving this movie. This is absolutely one of my favorites. I used to watch this like on repeat all the time because when I was a kid, I was in, I took karate. I was really into it. I was into Step by Step, which, Sasha Mitchell was in and all this stuff. And so when I decided when I was like, oh, I'll have Paul come here because I don't think you've ever seen this movie before,
Uh-uh.
and B, it wasn't. I don't think this is your type of movie,
Oh,
you know.
definitely not.
And so
Definitely
it'll
not.
be an interesting talk.
Now,
I
I
felt.
saw the first Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme back when it first came out, back when he was a thing. And even that one I thought was kind of meh. So, I know they made a bunch more of these kickboxer movies, and then this one didn't even have him, so it had no appeal to me. And I didn't watch Step by Step or,
Or Dallas or
I
anything.
didn't care about any of the other people, so I
Well,
had no.
no, but Sasha Mitchell was in Dallas as well, playing the nephew of Patrick Duffy's character, or
Right.
whatever. So
I mean, I like Peter Boyle. I always like Peter Boyle.
yeah, were you surprised that he was in it?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. So when I first watched it, I had no idea who Peter Boyle was because I hadn't discovered like Young Frankenstein and
Oh wow.
all this other stuff by then. Because that just wasn't my kind of humor at the time. You kind of grow into different things, I think. And later in high school, I got more into that kind of comedy. Um, However, I've loved him in this movie. Like he sort of blew me away in that, role. Like just, I mean, it's a small role, but it was still very
Oh,
significant,
memorable though, very memorable. But Peter Boyle's one of those guys. He when he has even a small role, you remember him.
Yeah, definitely. So, since this was your first time watching it, what did you think? Did you think it was meh like you thought the other one was, or did you think it was better, or what?
As far as a movie goes, I would say it's about the same. I just liked it a lot less. Um, I'm not really into sort of blood sport fantasy stuff. So and even though I did take a little bit of martial arts, it wasn't a big huge part of my life. But even then, I just remember you can block. You can not get. You don't have to be hit. You don't have to sit there and allow a guy with broken glass, on his fist to hammer you so that you bleed everywhere.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There was times where yeah, I was thinking that, but I was like looking at it going, okay, this person's getting hit really hard, and it is not helping his like motor functions of like,
No,
like
and there's
reacting.
and there's no reason. Like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? Why?
Well, okay, so let's get into a little bit of story stuff. I mean, I know we don't, it's a quick review, so we can't talk a lot about it. But I will say that there were some things I did not pick up on before that I caught this time. Probably more because I watch a ton of movies now,
You're
and
older now.
I'm a little older now, and I haven't watched it for a long ass time, so I don't really think about it. But there was so first of all, I didn't know Zian was called by the guy. I guess it was the guy that was helping whatever his name was, Kerry Tagawa's character. So there was that guy that was there that he kind of explained everything to,
Yeah,
expositioned,
yeah.
everything. And that was only just to give us all backstory of why what happened to Kurt and Eric, because all we knew at that point, for people who were familiar with the first Kickboxer happened. Kurt and Eric, or Kurt and Eric Sloan, which was Jean-Claude Van Damme and his brother, go to Thailand because Eric is gonna be fighting like the top best of the best in Thailand. He ends up getting his ass kicked, so his brother Kurt decides he's gonna avenge his brother's because his brother gets put in a hospital like paralyzed, so he's like, I'm gonna go avenge my brother and whatnot. And he goes and fights Tong Po, and he ends up winning. And that's what we saw at the end, right? We saw that he won. So in this, apparently Tong Po, getting really upset that he lost, comes over and shoots both of those guys and kills them, and the girlfriend, and the Jean-Claude Van Damme's girlfriend, which
And
was,
apparently gets away with it because there's no laws apparently in Thailand.
well, I mean, even though everybody knew, I mean, I don't know the full story. Maybe he maybe nobody wanted to prosecute. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, but he got away with it, right? Because of the story. And then so now the guy, I forgot what was Kerry Taggart name in it. I really liked him, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. The guy that was from Thailand that was trying to get the honor,
Oh,
back.
no, no.
Um, he was actually at Scares I Care, I believe, or was supposed to come to Scares I Care. I'm not remembering what
No, no,
exactly,
no. The
but
only ones I recognized aside from Peter Boyle were Heather McComb, of course, because we
Mhm.
saw her earlier.
What did
Um,
we see her in?
remember, she was in Don's Plum.
Oh yeah, Don's Plum. Okay.
Plus, she's been in a couple other things. And then, of course, Vince Murdocco. We remember him.
Yeah.
Um,
That's another reason why I was like, oh shit, I forgot he's in this movie. And I was like, oh, Paul's gonna be happy to see Flesh Gordon,
yeah,
in this
yeah.
movie.
And then it turns out I didn't know who Tommy was in the beginning, this snot-nosed little freaking teenager,
Mm-hmm.
but his face reminded me, and I'm like, man, I know that damn kid's from somewhere. And then when I went on Wikipedia, yeah, it's Brian Austin Green.
I have a story with that too. I actually met Brian Austin Green
Oh,
at
really?
Texas Frightmare weekend, the second one that I ever went to, and he was there with the Laid to Rest Chrome Skull guys, and so I went to get. I went to see him, and I was like, "Oh man, I should have brought my Kickboxer 2 DVD for you to sign." And he looked at me and he was like, why is my like face on the cover of that one? You
Ah,
know? And I said, no, but I got Albert Pume to sign it. And he looked at me and he goes, who? And I was like, the director of the movie you were in. And he looked at me and he goes, dude, I was 12 or 11 when I made that movie. It was before 90210.
right,
He
right,
was
right.
so he doesn't remember that. And I was like, you remember Sasha? He was like, oh yeah, who could forget Sasha? So he that I remember. I just thought that was really funny because he did not but I would, if I had thought about it, because I think I knew he was going to be there. If I had thought about it, I would have gotten him to sign my DVD cover or whatever, because I got Albert to sign it. And if I ever meet Sasha Mitchell, I'll get him to
I
sign
mean,
it. And
shit, I wish I had the kind of career where I was in movies at 11 and I don't remember who's in it because I've been in so many other movies since then.
yeah, right. Like that's a great career right there. And he's like, snot little brat, and he's only in it for like 3 minutes, maybe, or whatever of screen time. But it was
No, but
honestly,
right. He's there to establish the fact that, Sasha Mitchell's character is this, he's one of the Sloan kids and he can fight just as good as them and he's got all this stuff. He just doesn't freaking use it until way, 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 way later after he's gotten his fucking ass whipped unnecessarily. That's what bothers me. Like, this you didn't even let this little kid touch you, but you let this big giant huge guy beat the shit out of you. Ridiculous.
well, the big huge guy is was a big time, like he was the villain. He was a big time
Oh, I
villain in
know.
this. Like Tong Po is kind of legendary in the martial arts world of like films, and everything. Everybody knows. Even if you hadn't seen Kickboxer or whatever, you pretty much know. You've heard the name Tong Po. It's in fact, it's really funny because I want to say his name was Michael but it's spelled like, or it might be Mikkel, but it's
Oh,
Mikkel
Michelle
Lucy.
Kesey.
Yeah, is it
Okay,
Michelle?
I think
Um,
so.
but he also goes by Mohammed, so I think he changed his name or something. I don't know. I don't know the full story with that.
Oh, and
Um,
he's Tiger Tong Po.
yeah. Well, in the original movie, he was Tong Po. He was credited as that. It was Tong Po as himself,
Yeah.
right? In this, he's actually credited as Tong Po.
And notice it's not hamster Tong Po, and it's not hedgehog Tong Po or
It's
oyster Tong Po.
Tiger. It's Tiger
Tiger.
Compo. Works for me, So anyway, they the one thing I really liked about this movie, rewatching it, which I remember the scene, but it didn't really have that impact on me younger as it does now, was I liked a lot of the business stuff that went along with him owning the was the gym, Sloan's gym. And that sign, by the way, you want all the the roller gator stuff and everything, man. I would kill. I gotta talk to Albert because I'm still friends with him on Facebook, and if he's doing okay. I know he's been having a rough time. But if I can get in touch with him, I want to find out if he still owns that sign that says and if he's ever gonna sell it off. Because that was a really cool sign that said Sloan's Gym. But I like the business stuff where John Deal, who's a big time actor, also is in this movie, is talking about the fact that
He's the friend who distracts Tong Po, as I recall.
yeah, well, no, he doesn't distract Tom Poe, but he's distracts Sango when he's
That's
got
right.
the
Yeah,
gun.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, he distracts Sango. Tom Poe's already got beaten by that time. Um, but yeah, he's the friend who kind of I think he helps operate the gym. He does all the business stuff. So he was wondering like what's in the beginning of the movie, he's like, and I thought one thing would make you laugh is when he suggests aerobics classes, and then the guy's like aerobics classes, man. Was it Kurt and Eric would come back from the dead and beat my ass, if I did aerobics classes. And I was like thinking, and Paul would too, because you hate aerobics stuff, you thought it was silly, and everything at that time. And so did they, apparently, in this movie. Did you see who it was written by?
Uh-uh.
It was written by David S. Goyer, who got a very big Hollywood career doing comic book movies, the Blade movies, Batman movies, and did the Batman, I believe, like Batman Begins and all that stuff.
Um, I can absolutely see that. I can definitely see that. It's a lot kind of comic booky in the way that it's done. Um, and the thing is, the reason I like some of the other movies that we've done, you like No Retreat, No Surrender, some of the other kind of martial arty kinds of movies, is that most of them are a lot more fun. They're just cheesy and silly and over the top. This is one where it's not. There's just not a lot of fun for me. They take it very seriously, and
Right.
the fighting stuff especially because there's a lot of slow motion. You're getting to see all the details, make sure you see all the blood and all the stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, there's just not anything there for me. I have nothing. I just don't have an interest in that.
It's kind of like Rocky in a way, a little bit,
Well, especially with Sasha Mitchell's accent. That's the first thing I thought of was when he was talking. It was like, man, I expect him to go, Adrian, and he second,
He didn't have an Adrian. He didn't have a love interest, which he and there was at one point where he almost died, but the kid died, and everything. Which, by the way, that kid 2 years later was in Arcade, also done by Albert Pune. So Albert liked to use a few of the same people, and that the guy who did the same score for Arcade and whatnot. David Goyer wrote for Arcade, so there was a lot of stuff, and maybe that's another reason I like it so much. And probably Dustin Hubbard says Kickboxer 4 is his favorite, with the sequels or whatever. Kickboxer 2 is mine. Both done by Albert Pune, and both are Tong Po, movies. The third one didn't have. Third one was supposed to be like Rambo, I guess, because it basically had him with a gun most of the time.
Oh dear.
It was a completely different movie than this,
I
or
I
whatever.
I would probably say my speed is more the Dan Harmon Kickboxer, which is kick puncher and punch versus punch kicker from Community.
Yeah. But so I, like I said, I'm a really big fan of it. It's something I kind of grew up on. I'm very glad you got to see it, just because now you've seen it and you've seen Flesh Gordon and something else,
Mhm.
where he's not the lead or whatever. And like I said, I thought he did a pretty good job. It's just he sort of was there
I'm
as the bait,
I'm actually surprised that he wasn't the lead, though. I mean, he could have done it. He could have been the lead.
He could have been the lead. I don't know the particulars of why they chose Sasha over him. Maybe because
Looks.
he was also a bigger star at that time. Having I don't know if he was going on Step by Step at that time, because this was 91 and Step by Step came out in 91. So he was sort of like on the rise to
Mhm.
becoming, and he had done another movie, I think, that I've never seen, but I've heard of, called like Spike of Bensahurst or something, Bensonhurst. I don't know, but it looks, it looks like Rocky again, kind of thing, where, fighter has to whatever. It looks, I don't know, and I like Sasha. Like, I've always grown up watching his films, and whatnot, and so I just adore this movie. Also, I wrote to Sasha today to tell him I was doing it and everything, and how much I really enjoyed him, and like, rewatching it, I've like, well, I still love him as an actor in it,
Mhm.
and everything. And he said, "Thanks, bro." So, I that, at least he got to acknowledge, I got to acknowledge to somebody who I really truly admire. But once again, this is not your style. This is
Not
not your
really.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because we've seen different stuff. Like, you showed me different movies that are not my style, but
Right.
you adore them. And then you show me some I've liked, and then I've showed you stuff on Quick Review Thursday that you've absolutely hated, like 8 days a week. And
Yeah.
this
No,
was
this didn't.
no this was no 8 days a week for
No,
you.
it was no 8 days a week. No, fortunately.
Yeah, fortunately for you, because it could have been, because I mean, I get the talk about it being sort of um more or less like too serious. People
Yeah.
said that in other reviews that I read, and I mean, I get that, but I kind of like it myself personally. Once again, I like Rocky. I like when they take this stuff seriously, and you get to see the fight, and you get to, it's not over the top and stupid. And
But even the first Rocky had, humor into it, which was nice. He was
oh,
kind of a schlubby character. He had two turtles. Remember, he had Cuff and Link.
mhm.
He had goofy, fun little personality stuff, which I really liked it and it endeared it to me. Now, of course, the more and more sequels we got, the worse and worse they got. But the original Rocky is a pretty darn good movie, and you can definitely see how that movie in and of itself influences this film at least partially.
Mhm.
Uh, it just didn't have a lot of fun for me, I guess.
And I thought there was a lot of humor into it. I don't know. I laughed a few times, still, and I know all the lines, and I still kind of crack up at them. So I don't know. I never got bothered by that. I thought it had enough humor. Then it had a few sidetracks where it was sort of dramatic, like him, when he was out of the hospital and walk, like, dealing with the stuff, and the dealing with, what did you think of the coach, the trainer of him, the one that trained, did you think he was sort of silly
The
and kind of
Mr. Miyagi wannabe.
Miyagi? Well,
Yeah.
he was the Mr. Miyagi of Kickboxer originally, right? And he didn't do as much, like, he did more in Kickboxer than he did in Kickboxer 2. Because I guess because it wasn't, that wasn't the main thing. but I did enjoy him,
I
you know.
I didn't particularly care for him, except when it finally comes out later on, where he's like, um, "So yeah, I've been wanting to get this Ton Po guy, and I don't really care if it hurts you in order to do it." You know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah,
of
he was
like,
being very honest. Yeah.
yes, yes, that I was not expecting, and I was like, "Oh, okay, hey, dude, I right, I rightful, you know, I support you right there as a character. That's great. You never see that."
Yeah, you never see somebody say, and he did it in such a genuine way. Like, like Sasha Mitchell's character, David just couldn't get mad at him for saying that because, like, he would have felt the same way about getting back at the guy who killed Joey, which was, or whatever, which I'm guessing that guy got
Yeah.
arrested,
I
because
mean,
they
I
mentioned.
will say it's a little convenient, oh, we got to have him in there. How do we make him? Well, we say that his niece ends up getting killed too because she happened to be there, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't really show that too. They only showed Eric getting murdered, or whatever, or was it Kurt? I don't know. It's credited as Eric, right? So I'm guessing that Eric got killed, but Kurt was Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they couldn't have. So I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but Jean-Claude Van Damme couldn't do this movie because he had already signed on to do, what is it? Double Impact. Now, I'm pretty sure if they wouldn't have done the whole David Sloan stuff. And maybe they would have introduced him or something. And in the original Kickboxer, they never talked about their other brother, So there's never a mention of this. So it was sort of just like, okay, well, we need to continue the Sloan universe,
And I was just about to say, I'm very surprised in 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever that there isn't a little sister who was also a kickboxing champion who comes back after all the others are dead and starts
Well,
kicking everybody's ass.
I was sort of upset because, like, when they remade it. So they remade it from the very beginning with Tong Po and Kurt. And then they just kind of like kept going with that. Like, they've got two movies that they've done so far, and Jean-Claude Van Damme plays the teacher in that, or whatever. And honestly, they're just kind of blah. Like, I just don't like them, like I go, okay, I'm not into this, and I think it's because it didn't. What I would have liked to see was a sequel to that, because we got part 5, which had some kind of connection, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't really. Like, Mark Dacascos took over for Sasha Mitchell, and it made absolutely no sense or
Yeah,
whatever. So
they if they were going to redo it or reboot it, they probably should have done it as like a TV show or a series.
yeah, that would have been cool. Kickboxer series. I would have dug that, but I
They
guess,
just like they did Karate Kid.
yeah. In fact, I hope it kind of stops with the Kickboxer, and they can do maybe or whatever, like the movies, and they can do a TV show or something. I mean, they can always do it anytime they want. And still, we're in this world right now where there's TV shows and movies coinciding together,
Mm-hmm.
so at the same time. So anyway, so if you had to give stars for this movie, what would you give it out of 5?
Oh, so we're kind of like the traditional 1 star is bad, 5 stars is great.
I guess. I mean, I gave it 4.5 stars. Well, yeah, I think 4.5 stars. So out of 5. But on the stinkometer, I guess that would be a 2, or
Okay.
whatever. So what?
In the star method, I think I'd probably just give it a 2 stars.
And so on the stinkometer, what would you give it?
Um, oh, now I got to do math. Uh, I guess like 6.5, maybe 7.
Yeah, like, it's not a terrible done, like a
No,
terribly done movie or something. It's kind of,
no,
to you, it's kind
there's
of boring.
yeah, there's a lot of plot contrivances that I don't care for, but and like I said, I don't really care for the fighting and the sort of fantasy fighting blood stuff. But I mean, I thought the acting was all pretty darn good. There's not a bad acting performance in the whole thing. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
shot okay. I think as a action thing, there's way too many, um, slow motion shit. But other than that, I thought pacing wise, it was okay for an action flick.
I agree. There's a little bit. I noticed the slow motion that I never noticed before. So I was like, eh, didn't really do much to me. But I don't know. It honestly, I really just enjoy the
It's
movie. Like it's
it's
something I could put on a sick day and just like
it's
relax to.
interesting to take a movie that you loved when you were a kid and maybe you haven't seen it in a long time, 10, 20 years, and then put it on again. Then you're kind of looking at it with different eyes, and sometimes you wonder if you're still going to like it, maybe dislike it, or maybe like it even more, or maybe find new things that you hadn't really thought of before.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean that could in itself be its own podcast, like rewatching
Here we
old
go again.
movies. Yep. Well, we're not going to because we got
Oh, play it
like a
again,
million.
Sam.
Okay. Oh Lord, don't get us started. We'll actually end up doing it because we don't stop at one podcast for
Yeah,
video
and
games.
it's good that you yank me out of my comfort zone because, like I said, this isn't a movie I would have gone near in any other way. So
Yeah, and it's not a movie like I've thought about it for Indie Film Cafe, and I guess you could talk for like an hour about this movie or whatever, but I didn't feel like you would want to.
no, no,
So I
Joe would watch
figured,
it. Joe Tork would
uh,
like it.
yeah, he's probably seen it, and whatnot, and like I don't know. There's a lot of people who would really
Thing
enjoy this
is,
movie.
I know Joe, and he's going to say it was okay. It wasn't. It was missing Jean Claude Van Damme. I know he loves Jean Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I loved Sasha Mitchell. Probably, I don't know. I can't say I love him more because Jean-Claude Van Damme's done more. You know what I mean? And I've seen more of stuff and everything. But I just always like Sasha Mitchell. I don't know. I think he's got an interesting personality to
Like,
me.
well,
So
which accent do you want? Do you want the muscles from Brussels, or do you want the Rocky wannabe?
the Rocky wannabe, probably. I don't know. I like Karate Kid. I like this, So it's all of those movies kind of made into one movie. And I think that's another reason I love Karate Kid. I love Rocky. I love all that stuff. And then, they made an R-rated Rocky, an R-rated kind of things. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you got to see it. If you guys have seen it, let us know what you think. Also, follow us on sickflickproductions.com, indiefilmcafe.reviews, indiefilmcafe.poppy.com, and of course, patreon.com/indiefilmcafe, where for $1 you can listen to us rant and rave about something else, another
Yay.
movie. So
And I got one of these coming up soon, don't
another quick review Thursday, of
I?
course. Yeah. So you will probably do that in the studio.
Okay.
So if not, we'll do it through here. So
Okay.
we'll find it. But everybody else, thank you guys for checking this out and have a good one. Bye.
Eh.